with me to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. We're gonna start right in the beginning tonight. Kyle, I turned the monitors up for Jew. Maybe just bring them down just a little bit. But it is so good hearing myself up here instead of yelling at you, trying to hear myself. Genesis chapter 1 is obviously the beginning. Genesis. It's the genesis of what God is wanting to do. And on Sunday morning early, I was in Oklahoma. Thank you for your prayers and your encouragement, your Facebook, your text, all those things. And on Sunday morning, God got me up early. You ever get up early and you're excited that you got up too early and you get another hour and a half to sleep? That's what I thought was happening. And I looked at my clock and I thought, oh, praise God, I don't have to get up for another hour at least. And God said, no, actually, you're getting up now. And I said, no, God, you don't understand. I got an hour. And he said, no, you don't. You have an appointment. You have an appointment with me this morning. So I got up, I got dressed, and I actually went for a walk with God. And God began to speak some things to me personally. I believe some things corporately for our church. But there were many different items. But one of the items was what I want to share. And I'm going to be sharing probably more on Sunday in this area. But the word is this: emptiness. And there's some moments in our life we're empty, alone, or trying to fulfill something. In Genesis chapter 1, it says this. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Say empty. And empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. And I want you to see this. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. That though it appeared to be empty, the presence of God was hovering over the earth. Why? Because God was readying the earth to do something. God just didn't speak from a command, but he spoke from the Spirit of God that began to bring creation. That where there was nothing, there became something. Where there was darkness, it became light. Where there was water, it became land. It began to divide. And he began to speak to our world. But the word emptiness really grabbed my heart, because a lot of times in our life we have empty seasons. An empty season is a season where you know there's more, but you feel like you're living with less. An empty season is a moment in your life that you're stretching for something, but you don't feel like you have enough space to grab hold of. You don't have the ability to get beyond where you are to get to what God has for you. And you feel empty. And the difficult thing of feeling empty is you want to fill the void of your life. And I'm convinced that a lot of people struggle with different issues in their life, not because that sin is overwhelming them. It isn't because they have a lack of love for God. It isn't even that they're craving the sin. But they're trying to fulfill the emptiness. Sometimes when there's an emptiness in your life, you're just trying to get something in your life to fill the void of your life. And we see it all the time in the world and in the church. It works both ways. You see it with Moses in Egypt. Moses is a man that knows that there's something more, but in his emptiness he reacts in negative ways. We know that he kills an Egyptian, and he runs for his life, and he lives a season of knowing there's more. In Exodus 3, God meets him, speaks to his life, and all of a sudden he begins to fulfill and fill the empty of knowing there's more. And when God was speaking to me, I felt like this wasn't necessarily a word for the church. It was a word for me. It was a word for especially where I spoke on Sunday. But as I began to think about it, I began to think about too many times we fill the empty places of our life with something that doesn't fit, but it fills. And the dysfunction of your life will create an appetite for things that try to fill the empty. Because when you're empty, a lot of times you feel alone. You're looking, you're searching for something. And God says, in the beginning I created the heavens and the earth. It was empty and I filled it. Because it's only God's Spirit that truly creates fulfillment in your life. Now look with me in Luke chapter 5. Turn there. It is Matthew, Mark, Luke, the third book of the New Testament. Chapter 5, Jesus is calling the new disciples. And I don't know if I need to pass out Red Bulls tonight or maybe slap a couple people, but I've been at a youth camp all week where they were firing up. I feel like, let's go. Let's hear some word tonight. And let's get into the flow of things, because we want to have an anticipation of what God is doing. When God sent the Spirit into the world, into the earth, into creation, there was an anticipation because He knew what was to come. And a lot of times in our life, because we desire what is to come, but we're not sure if it's going to come. You can work a lot of time. You can work very hard. You can go through seasons where you're doing it all right and feel like you're not getting a return of everything that you want to get returned. That's why, it's exciting to have young people. Yeah. I didn't ask Julian to do the offering. He actually called me and said, hey, I feel like I'm supposed to do the offering at Cornerstone. And so, there's not a lot of 17-year-olds calling to do offering. I was like, well, I've never had that call, but praise God, let's do it, Jew. It's why? Because there's something that he sees in his heart that he wants to grab in the physical. And when you're not grabbing what you see in your heart, you feel empty. When you're not getting what you feel like you deserve, you feel empty. When people leave your life, there's an emptiness. And so many people are trying to fill the emptiness of their life, but they're not feeling it with the Spirit of God. They're filling it with whatever they can get into their life. And Jesus in chapter 5 of Luke he's actually about to perform his second miracle. He's young in ministry. He's looking for a few good men. And in Luke chapter 5, there is a group of fishermen, 4 fishermen that are about to become disciples that are fishing. And as they're fishing, they fished all night. But Jesus is communicating. He's speaking to the crowd. And the crowd grows to such a level that Jesus looks at them and says, hey, would you mind if I used one of your boats? I know you're tired. I know you're cleaning your nets. I know that you've been out all night. But would you just allow me to go and push me out, because my voice can no longer communicate to the masses that are here. So I need to get out of the water so it amplifies what I'm about to say. And so look with me in chapter 5. It says, one day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Galilee, sorry, I'm going blind. Can you guys turn on the lights? Did I say that one time? I'm sorry. Here we go. Bam. Technology. Sorry. Getting old. Terrible. One day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, which is the lake of Galilee, with the people crowding around him and listening to the word of God, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. And he got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into the deep water and let down the nets for your catch. And Simon answered, Master, we've worked hard all night and I haven't caught anything. But because you say so, get that in your heart tonight. But because you say so, I will let down the nets. And when they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled for their partners in another boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. Then Jesus says to them, listen, I haven't called you to be fishers of fish. I want you to be fishers of men. This is the ultimate fish story. I don't know if you've heard a fish story, but I was in Oklahoma. I heard all the fish stories you could hear in a week. Actually, on Saturday night when I arrived, the youth pastor said, hey, we're going out on the river to noodle fish. Do you want to go? And I said, absolutely, man, let's go. So we went to this river called the Canadian, the North Canadian. It is a muddy, muddy river. We jumped in. I'm thinking we're going to jump in. It's going to be like cool. I think the water was warmer than the weather. I jumped in this water, and we kind of walk in areas, and then I coast in areas till we find 3 guys, and I say this with all the fondness in my heart, but 3 rednecks. Now you take that as a negative. In Oklahoma, they cheer for that. You think it's politically incorrect. Well, not there. It's joyful. And these guys, no shirts, no shoes, and they're in this river, and they have this fish. And they're like, we got fish in this thing. And what they are, the big cement culverts, they're round, about this round. And in these culverts, catfish go up and they lay their eggs. And these are fish that are 5 pounds or 55 pounds. I mean, they're massive. And so we were looking, and all of a sudden, this guy comes up. His name's Matt. And he's like, there's a huge fish in this one. And so we start blocking the hole with my legs, and I'm thinking, guys, I am absolutely no help to you right now. And the fish is trying to get out, so it's hitting our legs, and it's moving. It's not like ramming us, but you can feel the tail. Because they're loading another guy named Curtis into this tunnel, or into this hole by his ankles. The water of the river's running through it. It's deep enough to put him in at the top, but at the bottom he can't swim through. So they're pushing him as far as they can to move the fish to the bottom so the guy can try to reach in and grab this fish. And I'm thinking, don't let Curtis go, man. Because if he goes, he ain't coming back. And so they're pushing him in there, and all of a sudden, this guy, Matt, he's about 6'5", he's probably 270, 280, he's a big guy. And all of a sudden, he comes flying out of the water with this fish, this catfish. Like 55-pound catfish. And he's got one arm all the way in it and another in its gills. And I mean, this fish is like throwing him around and everywhere. He's yelling, I got it! And all the other 2 country boys jump on him. And they're wrestling this fish. And I'm like on top of the thing with my feet. And I'm thinking, I just start yelling, yeah! Like I have a redneck moment. And I mean, I'm screaming, and they get done there looking at me like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm not coming down there to help you, so I might as well encourage you. And so I actually have a picture of me holding this fish like this, by the gills, and it's from here, and actually you can't, it goes all the way, it's about this far from the ground. And I told them, I'll just tell them, by the time I get back to Tucson, I caught this thing. Because that's how fish stories go. But there's a fish story that is supernatural because they fished all night and God does something in 10 minutes that they couldn't do in 10 hours. God creates something, but I want you to hear what Simon said. Simon says, I've worked hard and my nets are empty. You know what happens in life is sometimes there's seasons where you feel like your nets are empty. That there should be more in your life, but there's less in your life. That there should be more in what you put into life, but it's not going. But you know what's incredible about God is God has a way of bringing a supernatural acceleration of a miracle. What you couldn't do in 2 months, He'll do in 2 days. What you couldn't do in 10 hours, He'll do in 10 minutes. And He'll allow you to do something that you know is beyond who you are. But what about when the nets are empty? And that's what I want to talk about because everyone's fishing. But listen to me. Everyone is fishing here tonight. You're fishing for something. Either you're fishing for a job or you're fishing for a relationship. You're fishing to get married, and that's great, and that's good, and that's okay. You're fishing for confidence, or you're fishing for the next season. Maybe you're fishing for ministry or the anointing or what God has. But everyone in this room is fishing for something. But what is it when you work hard and your nets are still empty? And God is saying, but I want you to go deeper into it. I want you to go to another place. I want you to go to a next level. I want to see something supernatural happen. And it says that Simon reminds God, Jesus, we've been out here all night and we've been working hard. But I love what he says. But if you say to go a little bit deeper, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Because you know what takes you a little bit deeper? Empty moments. But you have to be careful where it sends you, because an empty moment, you're going to want to fill whatever you can fill. If you're empty in confidence, you'll do whatever it takes to increase confidence. If you're empty in your endeavors, you'll do whatever it takes to fill the empty moments. Why? Because when you're empty, it's uncomfortable. You want to change it. You want to stir it. You want to break that feeling, that void in your life. A feeling like you don't add up. You don't have what it takes. This gnawing discussion you have with the inner of who you are, that what it is that really you want to do. I don't know if I'll ever achieve it. And here's these guys. They've worked all night. Jesus shows up. And what I love about Simon, he's worked all night, and in his inconvenience, I know Pastor Scotty spoke about it last Wednesday. What a powerful message. But the gospel is inconveniencing when you're really following Jesus. And in the inconvenient moment, he says, no problem, Jesus. Let me push this out. I'm going to take you to a place where you can communicate hope to a world. I'm going to give you a moment. And what Simon doesn't understand is his life is about to change in a moment. In a moment. It took you years to mess up your life, but in a moment, God can change your life. In a moment, God can do something powerful. In a moment, God can give you an idea. In a moment. And that's what happens is we're seeking something. Maybe we're studying. Maybe we're going to college right now. Maybe we're studying for the bar exam. Or maybe we're studying to get our real estate license. But we're fishing for something. We're wanting something else. We're searching for something in our life. And when you're searching and your nets keep coming in and they're empty, my goodness, it can cause an issue in your relationships. An issue in your relationship with God. Because you know what it seems like? It seems like this. God, I'm doing everything right. And you're still not going to bless me. Because this is who I am. And God, Christ, says to Simon, go a little bit deeper. Go just a little bit deeper. Because when there's an empty place, you're holding on to what has been, but you don't have enough to grab on to what you want. It's like you know what you want, but you don't have the reach to grab it. It seems closer than it is, and it seems like, but every time it seems to be moving further instead of closer. It's an empty season. It's a season where you're fishing, but you're not catching. You're seeking, but you're not getting. You're looking, but yet it's not going to happen in your life. In empty seasons, listen to me, you have to be extremely cautious of what you let in your life in an empty season. I said it. I think in empty seasons, I look at individuals. I'm 47 years old. I have more to lose today than I've ever had to lose. I have more to lose today in a relationship with my wife, in a relationship with my kids, in a relationship in ministry. Why? Because if you're 25 and you do something foolish, when your kids don't know any better, they'll forgive you easy. When ministry doesn't know you, there's second and third chances. But in this season of my life, consequences are big. Why? Because I have more than I've ever had. But I still have the capability of losing losing everything I have in empty moments. Why? Because I'm looking for something to fulfill that does not have the ability to change. We're sticking things. And you know what? It doesn't fulfill it. It clogs us. And you see it all through the Old Testament. When you wanted to ruin a tribe or a group of people, it wasn't that necessarily you went to battle. You would begin to throw things in and contaminate their wells, because it was the source of their life. That's why Proverbs says, above all else, guard your heart, for it's a wellspring of life. It's speaking of a picture. When the adversary wanted to change a group of people, they tried to clog the wells. Why? Because when the wells became polluted, people became polluted. When the well was polluted, people got sick. They became desperate. And in our life, when we begin to allow things in our life, it can dilute us or pollute us. It will change the makeup of who we are. It begins to pull us back instead of push us forward. It begins to create an anemic attitude and spirit in our life instead of a powerful one. But we have all these things, we're just not full. We have all of this stuff, but yet we still haven't found what we're looking for. We're in an empty place. Though we're trusting God, we're in an atmosphere of missing Him. Why? Because empty places are lonely places. And lonely places are vulnerable places. And you want someone in your life. And it's incredible because two people will come into your life and they will look very similar. You'll have people that God brings, and you'll have people the adversary brings. And they look like they want to do the same thing, but they have a different outcome in them. When I was in Oklahoma 2 years ago, we went and built that house in Oklahoma after the tornado. But when we went to the tornado, the second day after, we flew in to look at what we knew that God was speaking to us to do something. We didn't know what. But I was there, and there was actually police officers that had the entire thing staked out. Not just police officers, but the National Guard was there. And they had this area in Moore totally surrounded. And as good Christians, I told Nathan, we got to get in there. And we drove to every street looking for a way in. And every street it was guarded, because they didn't want you in ground zero. It wasn't that it was unsafe. It was that everyone was vulnerable. That they were hoping to bring the people first, the people that owned those homes in. And as crazy as it seems, and my mind can't think like this, is they weren't trying to keep something necessarily away from you. They were trying to protect it, because there were people that were coming and stealing everything out of these neighborhoods that wasn't theirs. And so what they did was they put a protection, and there was and we broke the law. And Nathan's like, I don't know if we could go to jail, but I don't think this is a good idea. I said, it's fine. I'm from Tucson. I want to go see what's happening. And so we snuck in. We got through the perimeter, and we walked around the devastation. But what was crazy around the devastation was hope. Because when you walked around the devastation, there was a picture of a family. Though their house was gone, their home wasn't gone. Though maybe some of the physical things in their life were disastrous, but their children were still there. And it was incredible, because I had this opportunity. This mom was in there, and she was with her kids, and she was telling us, well, he was in the school. And if you see the school, the whole roof is blown away. And they were in a hallway, all like laying on the floor. And I asked this kid, I said, were you scared? He said, it was so loud. But I wasn't scared, because my teacher was there. My teacher was laying on top of us. Like, he took it as a joke. Like, my teacher was laying on top of us. Like, it was awesome. Why? Because his perspective, he was running around. Mom was crying. Why? Because he was looking at life through a child. She was looking at life of what could have happened. What should have happened. What might have happened. And when I look at this story in Luke chapter 5, I thought, man, everyone is fishing for something. Fishing for purpose. Fishing for a second chance. Fishing for an opportunity. Fishing for God. Fishing for a job. Fishing for a relationship. We're fishing for confidence. Fishing to be loved. Fishing to get our dream back. Fishing to hope again, believe again. And if not careful, when you bring your nets up, you won't allow God to speak to you where you're supposed to go. You'll just go. And you'll try to fill the void of your life by something that will contaminate your life. Jesus said it this way, I came to give you life, and life more abundant. I didn't come to give you an empty net. An empty net caused a moment for the miraculous. Simon was there. He didn't know it, but Jesus was about to do the supernatural that was going to turn his life around, where he was going to connect to God like he had never connected to God. He was going to start filling his life with Christ instead of filling his life just with business or just with fishing or just with an opportunity. Worship team, why don't you come? I want to challenge us tonight. What is it that God is after in our heart? What is it that God is after? In Luke chapter 5, we know the story because Jesus calls Simon and his brother to become disciples of Jesus Christ. He says to them, listen, you're fishermen, but I'm going to make you fishers of men. You know that there's something more than what you're doing right now. Can I tell you something? We don't know where Simon was spiritually. We don't even know where Simon was financially. I don't know if he was a successful businessman and had an incredible fishing empire of the day, or if he just had a small outfit and he was just catching fish and trying to survive for his family. We don't know where he was in life, but we know that God had something great for his life. But there had to have been something in Simon that day where not just his nets was empty, but there was an empty place in his heart. There was an empty place in his life. And he was looking for fulfillment, but he never found it. He was searching. He was putting things in his life. Some of them were okay, but some of them were probably causing dysfunction. They were causing issues. They were causing struggle, because we know Simon to be someone that is somewhat erratic. But Jesus comes on that day and he looks at him and says, you're not just longing for something more. You're not just empty because you're empty, but you're empty because I've got something I want to place in your life. Simon, will you trust me? And he takes Simon on a journey. He takes Simon on a journey that Simon had his ups and Simon had his downs. Simon had his ups, downs, and he was all around. I mean, Simon never got it perfect, but he came perfected. And I want to challenge you tonight just to stand with me tonight. And I want to speak to the empty